everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of By Request. And first of all, let me say thank you so much for watching last week. For those of you who made kind comments and some advice for me as far as lighting and sound, and I'm going to continue to try to make improvements there. You know, full disclosure, I'm trying to do this in the man cave, and so it's a work in progress. I also like to thank those of you who contributed financially to my project. I truly appreciate that. And also for the requests I got. And on this episode, unlike the last episode, I'm going to be fulfilling some of the requests that I obtained from you folks that watch. Anyway, last week I sang a song from the Ring-a-Ding-Ding album that Frank Sinatra did way back in about 1961. And that was the album, as I explained, that Johnny Mandel had written the wonderful arrangements for. And so I want to open today's program with another song from the Ring-a-Ding-Ding album. Now, you have to keep in mind that in the late 50s, during the heyday of the Rat Pack, ring-a-ding-ding was a phrase that was used quite often, and it was a multi-purpose phrase, as you can understand. But when Frank decided to do the album, his first album for Reprise, he called it Ring-a-Ding-Ding. And he asked arranger Johnny Mandel to put some bells in the album. And so Johnny Mandel actually had some tubular bells brought in, some chimes, to add some effects. And so on this particular song, you'll really hear the opening bells as they represent the sound of Big Ben in London. And now you know what the song's going to be. A foggy day in London town, it had me low and it had me down. I viewed the morning with much alarm. The British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wondered, would this thing last? But the age of miracles hadn't passed, for suddenly I saw you standing there, and in foggy London town the sun was shining, shining, shining everywhere. A foggy day back in London town, it had me low and it also had me down. I took a look at the morning with much alarm. The British Museum had lost its charm. How long, I wondered, could this thing possibly last? But the age of miracles hadn't passed, for suddenly I saw you standing right there, and in foggy London town the sun was shining everywhere. Everywhere. And that's an appropriate song for Portland, Oregon this week. We are on our 8th day of fog and smoke. So anyway, I'm going to do a request right now. A gentleman named Daniel Scuiry asked for this next song. Now, I got to get the microphone right there. Anyway, hang on there. The song that he requested, I couldn't find a track for it. Well, not without some effort, okay? Daniel Scuiry asked to hear me try to recreate the Harry James solo on Who's Sorry Now. Who's Sorry Now was a recording that Harry did in 1946 that opened with a trumpet solo by him and then featured Willie Smith on alto saxophone and on the vocal. Well, I couldn't find a track for Who's Sorry Now. Well, not one that the trumpet would work with. All the ones that I found was ba 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 ba, who's sorry, you know, Connie Francis, right? Well, that isn't going to work. So I was lying in bed one night this week, and I started thinking. Back in the 70s, Harry had an arrangement in the book he called Wrong Song. Actually, that was short for Somebody Done Somebody Wrong Song. And he always used to open that up with Who's Sorry Now, and then the vocalist, for quite a while, it was my wife Cheryl, would sing Somebody Done Somebody Wrong Song. But you know, an interesting thing about Who's Sorry Now and Somebody Done Somebody Wrong Song is that they have basically the same chord progression as All of Me. So what I did was, I found a jazz track of All of Me. It was in the wrong key. And so first I had to manipulate the pitch so that I could play Harry's solo. Then I had to slow the tempo down because it was an off to the races kind of a track. So I was left with a raggedy, noisy track to play this on. But Daniel, I'm sure you'll appreciate it nonetheless. So here goes a little bit of Who's Sorry Now. Anyway, Daniel, I hope that's okay. That's the best that I could do. Thank you so much for the request. And let's see, what else am I doing here? I got some. Oh, now I got to do something else. I had a request from someone named Rebecca. And they wanted to know if I could do Fly Me to the Moon. Well, every time that I do my one-man show, I always do Fly Me to the Moon. But I thought about doing something a little bit different. In 1993, Frank Sinatra went into the studio for several sessions that resulted in the duets albums. And I have to be honest, I wasn't wild about those albums, not because of Frank. I thought he did great, especially considering his age and health concerns at that time. But some of the pairings with other entertainers and some of the manipulations of the arrangements I thought were a little bit hokey. So anyway, back in the 60s, Frank Sinatra had recorded some sides with Antonio Carlos Jobim. And he is basically the father of the bossa nova. And of course, those albums are beautiful classic albums. But on one of the duets albums, the first one I believe, Antonio Carlos Jobim and Sinatra did their version of Fly Me to the Moon. And they had it start off in a bossa nova style. And so Antonio Carlos Jobim is not here, and I don't have any Portuguese or Brazilian folks here to sing that part. So I'm going to play Antonio Carlos Jobim's part on the trumpet, and then I'll come in and sing Frank's part on Fly Me to the Moon. Once again, a reminder, I do this all in one take, folks. If I make a mistake, we all got to live with it, so thank you. It's just like a live performance. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song. Let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Song. Let me sing forevermore, because you are all I long for, all I worship and I do adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love There you go, the duet version. Oh, one of the microphones are hot.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, I want to save that. I'm going to spoil the surprise. Well, I had another request for someone named Richard for Sleepy Lagoon. Now, there are several videos on YouTube of me playing Sleepy Lagoon. Some of them with a big band and some of them with a track. What I want to do today is I'm going to give you the chance to actually hear the Harry James Orchestra without Harry. And this is the 1958 band. And so you will actually hear the conductor, Maxwell Davis, count off the song, and then I'll come in and play Harry's part. The trombone solo, by the way, is by the great Ray Sims. And here's a little Sleepy Lagoon.
Okay. Here we go. The Sleepy Lagoon, take one.
Well, Sleepy Lagoon, you know the amazing thing about that song, it was written in 1930 by a British piano teacher by the name of Eric Coates. And it was called By the Sleepy Lagoon, and it was written as a waltz in kind of a semi-classical, light classical vein. And in 1940, a composer named Jack Lawrence, who is also the guy that wrote All or Nothing at All and quite a few other hit songs, found a piece of music and thought that he could write some lyrics for it. And so he wrote the lyrics and changed it to a foxtrot style and took it to Harry James. And of course, in 1942, when Harry recorded this, it shot right up to #1 and stayed there for a while. And Harry didn't like to play a lot of his old hit records over the years. He kind of, put them away. But Sleepy Lagoon stayed in the book right to the end. Anyway, I just want to do a little commercial here. Hang on. Here's the book, and this is the book now that's been for sale on Amazon since May the 7th. Harry James Trumpet Icon. And if you haven't picked up a copy of this, I urge you to get it because it really tells you the story of many of Harry's recordings. There's a detailed story in here about Sleepy Lagoon, and so you can go to Amazon and look up Harry James under the book category, and Harry James Trumpet Icon is right there. Also, thanks once again for those of you who contributed financially last week. Right now, I'm not working anywhere, as most of thousands of musicians all over the world don't have any work. And so this has given me an opportunity to make a little money, make some improvements in my equipment. I'd love to be able to have a more studio-like atmosphere for this, but right now we have to make do with what we have. And so there's a link that you can see down below in the descriptions on the YouTube video to tell you how to contribute a tip or donation if you'd like to do that. And again, I appreciate it. Now, this last song I want to dedicate to a very close friend. My buddy Rick V. Dorfer. He knows me just about as well as anybody that I know. We've been friends for almost 40 years. And he asked me a question the other day about what's my favorite Sinatra album. And my response was, you mean today? Because it changes. And the album that's my favorite today might be different than the album tomorrow. But a couple of days ago, I was thinking about how to close the program. And so this is for Rick. This is from an album that was originally called Swing Along with Sinatra. And Capitol Records got offended. They thought it was a ripoff of one of the concept albums that Frank had done with Capitol. And so eventually the album was retitled Sinatra Swings. And all the arrangements on the album were written by the great Billy May. And this is one of my favorite songs to sing. Frank used to describe it as the granddaddy of all saloon songs. And over the years, I've sung it in a Dean Martin kind of style, you know, everybody loves somebody someday. And then I've done the Michael Bublé version of it, but I found the music for the Frank Sinatra version, and so I'd like to close the program today with Frank and Billy May's version of, what is this the version of, by the way? You're nobody till somebody loves you.
Want to play back?
No, we're done with you. Come on now.
Here we go. Sleepy Lagoon, take 2.
I don't want to do take 2. You're nobody till somebody loves you. You're nobody till somebody cares. Now you may be a king, you might possess the world and all of its gold, but gold won't bring you happiness when you're growing old. Now the world is still the same, you'll never change it. As sure as the stars shine above, you're nobody until somebody loves you. So find your yourself somebody to love. You're nobody until somebody loves you. You're nobody till somebody cares. Now you might be a king, you might possess the world and all of its gold, but gold won't bring you happiness when you're growing old. Now the world is still the same, you'll never change it. Just as sure as a star shine above, 'cause you're nobody until somebody loves you. So find yourself somebody. Go out and grab yourself a body, 'cause you're nobody until somebody loves you. You ain't nobody until somebody cares. Now you might be a king, you might even grab the big fat world and its gold, but gold won't bring you happiness when you're getting old. Now the world, it's still the same, you ain't never gonna change it, change it. As sure as a star shine above, 'cause you're nobody until somebody really loves you. So find yourself somebody, somebody to love, somebody to love. Oh, I think I hurt my voice. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, and I hope you come back next week for the next video. If you have a request, send it to my email address below, and you know the other bit. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend, folks.